Hi, this is A New Nigeria with Wale Oluwade. This is your current affairs program where we critically examine the strategic issues bedeviling Nigeria's developmental aspirations and boldly offer practical, bold, and radical ideas on building the Nigeria of our collective desires. Today's episode is a continuation of the episode I began last week, titled Strategies for Power Availability and Sufficiency in Nigeria. In this episode, we would examine the key challenges bedeviling that sector. What are the reasons why we don't have electricity? What are the things we should stop doing immediately? We'll examine case studies from other countries, especially in Africa, and then I will offer my recommendations. And then, by the way, has anybody realized that the power minister, Adebayo Adelabu, since he was sworn in 2 months and 10 days or about 15 days, hasn't been seen or heard, from? I don't envy the guy. He's one of those ministers that I really feel for, because that sector is as convoluted, and as difficult as it can get, and you'll see it shortly. So we'll take this short break, and when we come back, we'll get right into the presentation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's get right into the presentation. So, like I said, the topic is strategies for power availability and sufficiency in Nigeria, part 2. So I said the discourse faced 2 key challenges, in my research: ATC&C losses and then metering. So what is ATC&C losses? Simply means aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses. What does it mean? I try to simplify this. So this is where you have the GENCOs. So they impute, they generate electricity, but then they have problems with their systems, their machines, or maybe there's no gas. So even though we have an installed capacity of electricity of 13,500, or let's say 14,500, but what is available, because of all the challenges they have, what they're able to evacuate and transfer to the grid is just barely 7,500. So you have system, all these losses, we call them system loss. So that's a loss. Now, when it comes to the grid, because the grid is obsolete, the infrastructure has been there since the 70s or 80s, and there has been no improvement in that infrastructure. So the grid is weak. It cannot carry 7,500 megawatts of electricity. So there are losses also. And then beyond that, when this electricity comes into our neighborhoods, the transformers or the poles, Nigerians go to the poles to do illegal tapping. They do electric connection, illegal ones. Even amongst the meters, people do bypass because of their ACs or stuff. So you have all these another gap here, losses that the industry suffers. And then just a few are billed. You'll see it in detail shortly. A few are billed. Now, of those who are even billed, only a few pay. So some don't pay, then you have just those who pay. So these 3 losses constitute ATC&C, aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses. And this is the explanation here. So ATC&C loss equals energy input from the GENCOs to energy that is realized multiplied by 100, or energy realized over energy billed and collection efficiency. And then collection efficiency is amount realized over amount billed. Now, because of those losses I just highlighted, because of those 3 gaps, what is the implication on the energy sector? What is the implication of the aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses? What is the immediate, strategic implication on the business of GENCOs and DISCOs? Now, Association of Power Generation Companies have claimed, that MBET, the bulk trader, in the chain, MBET is meant to collect money from DISCOs and pay GENCOs so that GENCOs will pay, the gas suppliers. Now, the GENCOs are saying that MBET is owing them 1.64 trillion naira so far, and it is broken down as follows. That is for generation companies. So you can see that no matter the business you do in this life, if anybody is owing you 1.64 trillion naira, that business is in distress and has a key problem. Now, for distribution companies, to show you the health status of distribution companies, the federal government of Nigeria has been subsidizing them to the tune of 2.8 trillion naira in the past 8 years alone. And this is the analysis. Now, for 2023 alone, so far, as of September, federal government has paid 135 billion naira. And my own estimate reckons that by December, we would have paid subsidy of 3 trillion naira on electricity on the electricity sector. This is just a snapshot to show you that this industry is facing severe financial distress. So I said there are two key problems of DISCOs. Number one, ATC&C losses, and then metering. Now, the industry is facing huge or terrible metering gap. What is the metering gap? So there are 43 million households in Nigeria that needs electricity. So of the 220 million Nigerians, we're all broken down, divided into 43 million households. So of the 43 million households, only 12.5 million are registered customers of the DISCOs. But of these, only 30.8, that is 12.15 are registered, leaving a balance of 30.85. But yet, even of the 20.15 million registered, only 5.13 are metered, leaving a difference of 7.2 million. Now, if you had 7.02 to 30, that is the electric metering gap. So you have almost 37, or 38 million Nigerians who are not using, who don't have meters. Now, of course, there are about 5.1 million of them who do estimated billing. So the remainder, how do they get electricity? The remainder who are not registered customers of DISCOs, how do they get electricity? That's the challenge, because these 43 million households are customers, of the DISCOs, but over 70% of them are not paying for electricity, are not using or accounted for. So there has been several initiatives in the industry to change the direction and the condition of our power industry, to remedy the situation and improve. So, and this is why I said I don't envy Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, because the industry is so complex. There are so many programs that it will take a while for you to even get a grip or understand exactly what is going on. So you see all these programs with all these huge sums of money. So you have TCN, who has raised 1.6 billion so far for transmission rehabilitation expansion program 1 and 2, that's TREP. There's NETAP, $460 million from World Bank. You have the North Core project, is a West African power project among ECOWAS countries, $450 million, funded by the World Bank, African Development Bank, and then French Development Corporation. Now, but the big one is the 25 billion Renewable Energy Master Plan, which involves the NIPPs and the IPPs, that is the Nigerian Integrated Power Projects and the Independent Power Projects. Now, here they are. So you have all these are legacy companies after the unbundling of NEPA. They were sold, I showed that last week. They were sold to DISCOs and GENCOs. So here they are. Then you have all these hydro companies, that are also in place. Mambila, you should note Mambila is a new project that was started under President, just kick-started 2016. So, and then some of these hydro power they've been concessioned to this to private individuals. Two things stands out here that I want to interrogate. Number one, imagine the rate of depreciation of forex, of naira against the forex now. Imagine what the dollar is exchanging to the naira. So imagine the implication on these, projects, especially when this Siemens project was done for 3.8 billion. It was the equivalent of 1.15 trillion naira. Now, this $3.8 billion is now a little over, it's over 4 trillion naira. Now, look at the implication of that on all these other, projects. The World Bank, wants to develop 1,000 mini grids of solar power in rural Nigeria. So look at all these projects that are ongoing and look at the implication of what is going on in the economy on all these projects. We'll take this short break, and when I come back, I'll continue with the presentation. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Now, this is a diagram of all these projects, I mentioned. I said I wanted to interrogate one or two. So NNPC says they want to add 5,000 megawatts in the next 10 years. But I would have reckoned that NNPC, which is unable to deliver on its primary function of managing our crude oil and gas resources. What is the guarantee, or what is the confidence? What gives us or them the confidence that they can deliver? I would have expected NMPs to focus on their primary, assignment rather than, leave that and be going into what is not their primary assignment. Secondly, I also wanted to interrogate the Rural Electrification Agency says they have 2,000 projects providing 6,000 megawatts of solar power from 2020 to 2022, impacting 5 million people, in rural Nigeria. And the question is how? Where is it? I mean, I just showed you a slide on the electricity access that the rural Nigeria is almost under the cover of darkness. So this is how, we have wasted all this money. Now, look at this. These are the different projects all over this country that you expect Mr. Adebayo Adelabu, to come to grips with in the short period where he's been in office. And this is why the man, has been incommunicado. I don't blame him. I don't envy him, like I said. Next, this is our energy mix, targets. So in 2016, we're doing self-generation, which is generators and stuff, so 66%. And then because we're a gas country, so most of our power plants are running on thermal. So we said by 2020, we'll have reduced self-generation from 66 to 45. Have we done that? No. So have we improved gas? No. Rather, we have even come down from 29 to 27 on gas. All of this we have not done. So we have this target, but I don't think this is feasible. So what's my own proposal? 16. I think this is what is reasonable if we get our acts together right now. So we can ramp up gas production using the thermal to 40%. We can do solar because we have an abundance of solar. And you'll see in one of the case studies, we can do 20%. We can do hydro. We can do we can do coal because we have abundance of coal. We can do wind. Then we can reduce self-generation to 5%. But that is if we get our acts together. Next, what is the role and impact of electricity generators in our economy and on the electricity sector? What is the role and impact of electricity generator importation into Nigeria on our electricity sector and on the overall economy? What is the role and impact? We spend well over $2.5 to $3 billion annually importing electricity generators as alternative sources of generation, and that is self-generation. Now, in addition, we spend over $22 billion on importing diesel, PMS, and lubricants to power same. Also, there are extra billions on spare parts and accessories. Then we have now included importation of solar panels and inverters, electricity solar panels and inverters to our electricity menu, costing billions of dollars more annually. Now, what are the implications? What is the cost to the economy? Annually, I estimate we're spending about $30 billion on electricity self-generation, which is basically import cost. Annually, we're throwing away $30 billion purely on, self-generation of electricity in Nigeria. That is the money that should have been spent, in fixing all those presidential power projects, Mambila, doing all these other projects, the mini grids, solar mini grids. That is the money we're spending on importation of electricity generators, solar panels, and inverters. Now, implication on our economy. What are the implications of the economy? Loss of revenue, loss of jobs, loss of employment opportunities, weakening of our currency, which currently is over 1,200 to $1, high cost of production, increase in inflation, lack of motivation to fix the electricity sector, because we have an indolent, and lazy elite and political class who are, hooked or addicted to short-term fixes rather than settle down, to do the hard work of growing this economy. So these are the implications on our economy. And then the Naira will continue to lose value for as long as this continues. What is the implication on the economy, on the environment? Nigeria is the highest importer of generators in Africa. We contribute 17.5 metric tons of carbon dioxide, that is greenhouse gases, to the atmosphere, the highest also in Africa. What is the impact on availability of electricity? There is no incentive to decisively fix the electricity sector. Even NEC, the regulator, collects well over $1 billion on import licenses issued, to generator importers. That is the debacle of this economy. And by the way, I listened to the president at the Nigeria Economic Summit group meeting this week, saying Nigerian economy can grow to $1 trillion by 2026. Mr. President, with all due respect, that is wishful thinking. And I could have said it worse, but because you are the president, I will say it is purely wishful thinking. The good thing about economics is that it is a science. It is not based, on magic or hope or prayer. It is a science, and there are key fundamentals in the application of economic principles. Number one, you've got to produce. Number two, you have to attain self-sufficiency. Number three, when you are done with self-sufficiency in education, healthcare, housing, jobs, and all of that, then you go to export so that you can earn revenue. We have not done any of this. Now you're saying you want to grow by 3 years in 2026. If that were possible, every other country of the world, Japan, China, America, India, Singapore, they would have folded their hands and behaved like Nigeria and do nothing. So until we are ready to roll up our hands, we can continue to kid ourselves. It's not going to happen, Mr. President. I know you to be a seasoned accountant at Mobile in the early 90s. I was a young man working there, so I knew you. So concentrate on being an accountant and governing, providing leadership to the various appointees and the subnational entities, and leave the issue of economics to sound economic people. By the way, what's the next? So we're importing all of this. So until we stop this, that we're doing, we're not going anywhere. Next, now, this is a case study of Morocco. The Kazazate solar panel station cost 9 billion, and then it can generate 510 megawatts of electricity, using 4 million solar panels and all of that. But this is what I want you to focus on. The phase one of this project began in 2013, and it was commissioned in February 2016, just 3 years. Now, phases 2 and 3 were commissioned in 2018. Guess what? So between phase 1 and phase 3, it took just 5 years for a country like Morocco to build this power station. This power station that is generating 510 megawatts. That is how serious nations grow, and apply themselves to turn around, their various industries. We don't want to do the hard work. We want to sit down and begin to pontificate, and give empty rhetorics that is not going to achieve anything. On the issue of Morocco again, we have abundant sunshine for almost 7 to 8 months of the year. The rainy season is just about to end, yet the sun is blaring hot outside. Why are we not applying ourselves to build solar panels all over the empty spaces in the northern part of Nigeria? Our leaders are not ready to do that. Now, this is another case study, Egypt. Egypt, in 8 years, increased their electricity by additional 31,000 megawatts to 59,000. Just in 8 years, they grew their energy from 20-something to, they added 31,000 megawatts to their electricity industry. They built, in these 8 years, they built 17 new projects, which added just 28,000. And their target is to go to, 284 terawatts. That is what Egypt, is doing. We are not ready to do that. We're ready to begin. We're ready to continue to import generators, and then we expect that miracle would happen. Industries are going to grow. Now, pharmaceutical industries are shutting down. Hotels are shutting down. Businesses are shutting down. The cost of electricity, like I showed you, it's crazy. It's killing businesses. So we need to get down, do the hard work, get serious, and turn around this economy, and stop, engaging in fanciful and empty rhetorics that's not going to take us anywhere. What are my recommendations as a roundup? So we need to add 3,000 megawatts for the next 10 years. If we start right now, we can add 3,000 incrementally, annually, for the next 10 years. And what are the things we need to do? We need to decentralize the entire electricity value chain, from the national to the states and to the local governments. Like I said, the Electricity Act has already done that. Number two, we need to secure adequate private sector investments into the entire value chain. Number three, aggressive metering program of 3.3 million meters annually to cover unmetered household population. The target set by the discourses and NEC is 1.25 million meters annually. That's not going to work. We need to increase that to 3.3. And then number four, prioritize access and availability of electricity. Prioritize access and availability of electricity to industrial clusters, special economic zones, ICT hubs, hospitals, schools, vocational educational systems, MSMEs, and all of that. Exhaust full options of energy mix, particularly gas, solar, hydro, coal, wind, and biomass. Number six, explore additional PPP arrangements with all these global electricity generation giants globally. Leverage on vast expanse of land in the northern region for solar power farms, imitating the Moroccan model. Critically, we need to scrap the Rural Electrification Agency and instead partner with the 774 local governments to ensure minimum 70% electricity access by 2034. Why do I say we should scrap the Rural Electrification Agency? The idea that one agency, a director, can sit down in Abuja and go and supervise power generation and distribution in the villages of Nigeria. It's a myth. It is a lie. And people are just using that, to siphon money. The map I showed you in slide 14, all those colossal sums of money just shows you how our civil servants have sat down and ensured nothing is worked. I mean, I showed you Morocco built the 510 Kazazate solar farm in 5 years. We have been on Mambila Power since 2007. It's not gone anywhere. The Siemens deal has been there. It's not gone anywhere. All those deals are there. It's not going anywhere because civil servants have sat down with a few politicians and they've decided we will not have electricity, but we'll rather continue to import. And they keep making, tens of millions every year in that sector. We can't allow, that to continue. I know people who have worked in that sector who are filthy rich because of corruption. We cannot allow that, to continue. We need to use states and local governments to distribute meter, to generate electricity so that we can get electricity closest, to the people. Now, I'll take this short break, and when I come back, I'll give my closing statements. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Here are my closing statements, and I want to speak briefly on the role of disruptors. I have said this repeatedly, and it bears repeating. Nigeria deserves far better than the atrocious standard of governance and leadership we have gotten, especially under the immediate past administration of President Muhammadu Buhari. The only reason why something as basic and elementary as electricity will defy solution and has become intractable for decades now is simply because the heart and soul of those at the helm of our governance structure isn't involved in serving, but being served. How are we going to solve our energy challenges and exit this shameful debacle of electricity importation? I speak here briefly of the role of disruptors. Besides the technical and operational bottlenecks bedeviling our power sector, the factors that are the real culprits are systemic corruption and entrenched incompetence in our bureaucracy. These are the real monsters we're confronting. It is why the power sector has become extremely complex and convoluted. It is a maze or spider's web of monumental sleaze and egregious incompetence. The technical and operational challenges I mentioned in this presentation are, to my mind, deliberately contrived to stall progress and ensure a few bureaucrats continue to feed fat at our collective expense. The only difference between Egypt, Morocco, and Nigeria's electricity sectors are the kinds of people presiding over them. I know a few politicians, but importantly, civil servants who have become stupendously wealthy from working in the energy sector. And this is at our collective expense, and this cannot continue. So we need a disruptor in that strategic sector. It is why I feel sorry for Mr. Adebayo Adelabu. It is why a former minister who said he will do wonders and perform magic there failed spectacularly. It is the power of disruptive thinking that changed banking and telecommunications in Nigeria. Disruptive thinkers challenge established negative and non-productive status quo. The transformative power of disruptive thinking is what has changed and transformed the quality of human life on earth, and why we aren't still riding on camels and horses for long-distance travel. It is why we can call and see each other even though at different ends of the Atlantic Ocean. It is why you can enter a piece of flying metal and in 6 hours arrive in the United Kingdom. So we need a thorough systemic cleansing of our civil and public service architecture to exorcise it of corrupt and indolent bureaucrats if we're ever going to make progress. We don't need these kinds of people in our public service. Rather, we need an abundance of disruptive thinkers. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you need to have more disruptive thinkers in your key appointments, even within your inner circle. You do have a few, though, and I've spotted 5 so far. I'll acknowledge these 5 now, and I'll applaud them. I'll start from the 5th, Barrister Dr. Betta Edu. I applaud you for your efforts in the Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. I don't particularly agree with everything you've done, but I appreciate your efforts. You're giving money to people, 25,000 for 3 months and all of that. I would have done it differently, but I appreciate your efforts. You've been everywhere, and you're making, you're setting up the poverty fund and all of that, so I appreciate you. So you come 5th. I clap for you. The 4th is Engineer Dave Umai, I also appreciate your efforts in visiting all the roads across Nigeria to see that they get to work. You know, I don't believe, I don't know about the supersonic highway between Lagos and Abuja, but I appreciate what you've done so far. And I wished you had, you know, insisted on the struggle with your civil servants in your office, instead of you buckling the way you did. But I appreciate your efforts anyway. And the third is Dr. Olubumi Tunji Ojo. I appreciate what you did in the immigration under your Ministry of Interior, you know, where you ensured 200,000 outstanding passports, you know, were cleared. You said 2 weeks, but it was done in 3, but that's novel in this environment. So I appreciate what you're doing. You know, move that to also the Correctional Service and all the other agencies under your, so I applaud you. Now, the second, the first one up is Barrister Inyesom Ezenwo Wike, FCT minister. We had a minister in this FCT for 8 years who did nothing. We didn't know whether he was alive or not, you know. But you have come, you're shaking things up, you're removing all this indolence, most of these indolent civil servants. You're bringing in fresh energy into the FCT. I applaud you. Keep that up. You know, I saw the list of lands you want to revoke if they don't develop them. That's fantastic. Keep that up. Now, this applause is not for whatever they did. It's simply for the 2 months plus you've been on your current assignment. Now, you are probably wondering, who is my number one? Barrister Uju Kennedy. Uju Kennedy Ohandeye, you know, the current Minister for Women Affairs. Why is she not my number one? You know, she's been everywhere. The Calabar professor in the University of Calabar issue, she was there. She's recommended that children be given opportunity to work. But critically, I saw the video where she went to Maitama General Hospital and confronted the management of that hospital, where they allowed the lady to die, the lady that was thrown out of a one-chance vehicle. That video, where she looked right in the eye of the medical director and said, we're going to sue you, that gives me joy every time I see it. That is the attitude we must have against indolent and corrupt civil servants in Nigeria. I wish the NOA would use that video, you know, for sensitization program. I wish the barrister, beyond suing the Maitama Hospital, would go forward, report those doctors that were on duty to Nigerian Medical Association and even the Ministry of Health. You know, those doctors swore an Hippocratic oath to save lives, not to treat human life, you know, so badly. So these are 5 disruptors I've identified, you know, in the presidency of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and I applaud them. So this program isn't just about criticizing for the fun of it. If you do well, we'll praise you. I am resolutely committed to building a new Nigeria. And anyone who's positively engaged in that effort will be acknowledged and celebrated publicly. By the 1st year anniversary of this dispensation, I'll repeat this and give proper award here for top-performing public servants. I believe in a new Nigeria, and it is possible. Now, that's the program today. Remember to follow me on my different social media handles. Subscribe to my YouTube channel so you can watch this video. And there are so many other ones that are there. Drop me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.